Hello, so today we're going to be talking about something completely different on the channel. Today we're talking about product photography. Now, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that my main source of income is from wedding photography. But from time to time, I do shoot product photography too for local businesses and brands. Now, it's a fantastic way of making money from your photography. So if you're just starting out in photography, or even if you're a seasoned pro, product photography can help you bring in multiple streams of income. So it's definitely a genre of photography that's well worth getting into. There are thousands and thousands of brands out there looking for great photographs for their products. So today, I thought I would take you through 3 different setups that I use regularly to create great product photographs. Now, we don't need to use tons of studio lighting. These setups I've kept very, very simple, so you'll be able to follow along at home. But you will need a good camera, so a DSLR or a mirrorless camera, ideally with a good selection of lenses too. So before we get on to the first setup, I'd just like to say that Holzken have very, very kindly sent me these 2 watches to feature in this video, and they've also provided me a discount code for you guys if you're interested in picking one up. So I'll leave the link in the description below so you can go and check that out. Okay guys, let's jump on to the first setup. Now for the first setup, we're going to be using available light outside. Now the key for this is we need either an overcast day or we need some good shade. They're the 2 requirements for this shot. The rest is pretty straightforward. So let's get outside now and go and take this shot. So we're out in the garden for the first shot now. We're going to be using available light, so just the natural light. Now it's best if you get an overcast day or maybe find a nice spot that's in the shade like I've got here. Now I've got the reflector set up here just to bounce a little bit more light back into the scene, because the more light we've got on the watch there, the better it's going to look. Now, so I'm shooting at f8 to get a nice depth of field to make sure we've got everything nice and sharp. Now I've chosen some leaves that I found in the garden here for this shot. And I think it's important to kind of look at the product that you're shooting and try to keep your background, you know, within the theme of the product. So we've got this natural wooden watch here, so the nice rustic leaves that we've got here work perfectly for this shot. And also try to complement your colours as well. So the green leaves go nicely with the brown wooden watch strap and the nice blue watch face we've got there. So yeah, just have a little think about how you're going to set things up. You know, this watch wouldn't look great on a plain white background. So yeah, be creative with what you've got and what you're shooting. So in terms of the setup on the camera, it's pretty straightforward. I'm on the tripod. Now I definitely recommend using a tripod for product photography. You definitely don't want to get any shake in your shots whatsoever. And because we're at f8, we're using quite a slow shutter speed as well. So having the camera on the tripod will eliminate any movement and camera shake. So definitely recommend doing that. Now I also use the 10-second timer as well that's built into the camera. You can use a shutter release as well, but I find the self timer works just as well. So I'll set that for 10 seconds, press the shutter release button, and it'll take 10 seconds before it takes a shot. Now that also eliminates any shake that you're going to get on the camera there. So perfect for doing product photography with. Now for this shot also, what I should say is I'm using the telephoto lens, but I'm also using a macro tube. If you don't have a macro lens, a dedicated macro lens, you can buy these extension tubes very, very cheaply, and it'll allow you to get your lens a lot closer to your subject, which really helps with product photography when you want to get nice in and close. Now another thing I would say as well is companies are looking for varied shots. They don't necessarily want one shot. Now these days people want stuff for Facebook, Instagram, website, all of these different things. So it's really important to get a variation of shots. So for example, Instagram stories are really popular at the minute, and you're going to want a 16:9 crop. So it's very, very important to take these into consideration when you're shooting to make sure you get a lot of varied shots. So for this shot, I will take a 16:9. I'll also take one that works well for a square crop, and also one that works well for, say, a 5:7 crop as well. So yeah, do a few different shots, and yeah, it's really going to help you sell your images to companies and brands that may want to hire you for your services. Right, so let's go ahead and take this shot, and yeah, we'll get back inside because it's freezing out here. So let's do it. So the second setup is very, very similar to the first setup, but instead of using available light outside, we're going to be using available light inside. So we're going to be using window light for this setup. Now this is great if it's either raining, snowing, windy, or extremely bright conditions outside. We can move inside, more controlled environment. But you do want to choose a window that's not directly facing the sun. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, a north facing window is perfect for this. So yeah, let's get stuck into this next shot then, guys. So here we are, we're set up in front of the window here, natural light bouncing back off the reflector onto the watch. Now, I encountered a couple of problems while I was setting this shot up. One, I couldn't get the cushion to sit correctly. When I was taking the shot, I was missing the edge of the logo, the watchmaker's name. Now, you definitely don't want to be doing that. You want to make sure you get the logo in full view for the brand. Now, what I use is a Play-Doh. It's or plasticine, putty, anything like that you can use. Play-Doh's perfect. Roll it into a ball, position it underneath your product, and it will just allow your product to sit nicely in where you want it, and you can manipulate that then to get it into the perfect position. So that's what I've done with the cushion. It's now sitting perfectly. I've got my composition kind of focused on the diagonals, so the watch strap is running from corner to corner, and there's also this band of stainless steel which runs across the face of the watch, which runs in the opposite direction from corner to corner. So it's all working really well compositionally, and it's something you really need to focus on. So the next issue, if you like, was reflection. Now, it's very difficult to control light when you're using ambient and natural lighting. So what I've decided to do was use a polarizer, just turn the polarizer a little bit to take the glare off the glass of the watch face. Now, this is allowing us to see clearly the components underneath the glass, which I think works really well. Now, obviously what this will do, it will slow your shutter speed down, so you will definitely need to have your camera mounted on a tripod for this. This particular shot, I've got a 2-second exposure, so again, I'm using the self timer on the camera to make sure there's no additional shake on the camera to get a perfectly sharp image. So the other just small issue, well, it wasn't really an issue, I just thought I could actually improve on the shot, was just to bounce a little bit more light back into this side. So obviously this reflector here is bouncing some light this way, we've got the natural light coming through the window this side, but I felt this side of the watch just was a little bit too dark. So I've just got a basic white envelope for this, and I've just basically brought this forward near to the watch, and that's just reflecting some of the light back from the window to this side, which is just filling in some of the shadow. Now, so the further away you take it, the more shadow you're going to see, and the closer you bring it towards your subject, obviously the more light it's going to reflect back into that side. So it's just a case of moving this in and out to get the exact right amount of reflective light back into that side of the product. So yeah, I'm really happy with how this shot's gone. Again, just to talk you through the gear that I'm using. We've got the camera set up on the tripod, so you definitely need a tripod for this. I've got the 50-140 lens on the Fuji, so that's a 70-200 equivalent if you're on full frame. We're at 90mm, so we're not, we're kind of mid-focal range. We've got the macro extension tube on there, and this is the 16mm macro extension tube, which is the same one we used for the shot that we did outside. So that's allowing us to get a lot closer to our subject. So with the macro tube on there, our depth of field is a lot narrower, so you might find that your plane of focus might only be the width of maybe your finger. So you have to bear that in mind. So the next shot, we're going to be taking a shot in the studio with some controlled lighting, and we're going to be focus stacking an image so we can get complete sharpness throughout the whole of the scene. So a bit more of a technical shot, but again, it's a very, very important shot for product photography. So let's get into the studio, guys, and take this next shot. So before we get stuck into this shot, guys, just thought I'd tell you that this is a 2-part video. So the second part, we're going to feature more ways of how to make money through selling your product photography and how to approach brands and companies to basically promote your work. Now, We're also going to be talking about how to edit all of these photographs that are featured in today's video as well. So yeah, make sure you check out part 2. It's coming in 1 week's time. If you're watching this in the future, the link will be up the top there and down in the description. So let's get cracking with the shot. So what we've got set up here, we've got the camera on the tripod there pointing at the watch. Now we've got the 18 to 55mm lens on, and we've got the 10mm macro tube on. We're at 55mm and we're very, very close, as you can see, very close to the watch. Now we're about 3 inches away from it, I'd say. We've got the light there positioned right over the top. Now I use lots of different lighting setups in the studio. I've got these flash lights here with lots of different modifiers, from brollies to soft boxes, grids, snoots, all of these things that we can use to manipulate light. But for this example, I've kept things as simple as possible, as we're talking about 3 easy setups. So what I've got light-wise is a single light, and it's a very small LED panel. Now as you can see, I've got it positioned very, very close to the watch and just over the top of the camera. Now what this is doing is creating a nice soft lighting effect. And I've just got the envelope there, setting the putty, Play-Doh, plasticine, whatever you want to use, which is reflecting a bit of light back into this side of the shot. Overall the exposure looks nice. Now even though we've got an aperture of f5.6, our depth of field this close to the shot is so narrow, it's, you know, we're talking millimeters. Now, to get a shot that is sharp from front to back, we're going to need to use a process called focus stacking. So what focus stacking means is we take a shot of different areas within the scene to create a sharp focus from front to back. So my camera, the Fuji X-T2, which we're using today, has a focus bracketing feature built in with it, and a lot of modern cameras do. I think the Nikon D850 does. Fuji X-T3 does, I think the Fuji X-H1 does. There's a whole bunch of cameras out there that do have a bracketing feature. If you don't have this on the camera, it's not a problem, you just have to adjust your focus manually. So we'll be taking 50 different shots today with this. So we'll be focusing right in the near foreground of the image and then all the way through to the background of the image, and it will take 50 different shots. And then what we're going to do is stack all of those images together in Photoshop and let Photoshop blend all those images together to get a sharp image from front to back. It's not possible to do this in one shot because we are so close to our subject. So I would also say that we've got a cloth here draped on the background, and we're using that as a negative fill, so that's stopping any light bouncing back off this wall back into our subject or back into the camera lens that might create flare or ghosting or anything like that. So always good to put cloth up. Cloth absorbs light, whereas other surfaces reflect it. So obviously I'm using the lowest possible ISO setting. I've chose f5.6 for this because it's the sharpest aperture of my lens. So as we're focus stacking anyway, I chose the sharpest point of my lens, which is f5.6. All lenses will have a sweet spot. So 5.6 for me for this. Take a series of images. Again, I've got the watch propped up on plasticine just to get the correct angle, and I've made sure my composition is very nice, diagonally looking across the watch face. So yeah, pretty easy to set up. Now one thing I would say, and this goes with all product photography shots, make sure your product is as clean as possible. Now I use the rocket blower to get the dust off, and I also polish any glass as well. So do that before you take the shot, and it will save you a lot of work afterwards in post-production. So yeah, hope you enjoy this little setup, guys. Pretty simple, one light, bit of a reflector, focus stacking with a macro tube. Thank you so much for watching today, really appreciate it. If you got something from the video and you liked it, hit the thumbs up, that really helps. Drop me a comment if you've got any questions whatsoever. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And next week we'll be talking about how to edit these photographs and a little bit more about how to promote your product photography, approach brands, and hopefully make some money out of these shots and these setups. So I'll catch you next week, guys. See you soon.